Hey there, welcome back into the Shop Fix channel. In today's episode, I want to give you a review of this 6-inch Rikon jointer to give you an idea whether or not you want to purchase this model or a jointer of a similar design. And I want to let you know some tips so you can figure out whether or not you actually need a jointer for your specific shop. Stick around.
Shop Fix, for the love of woodworking.
Alright, so first let's cover some of the important specs of this jointer, such as the width of the jointing bed, which is a little over 6 inches, which with the fence gives you a 6-inch jointer capacity. The length of this bed is about 30 inches. And then the fence itself is a little under 4.5 inches high and a little under 20 inches long. One of the great features of this jointer, in my opinion, is that the fence is easily adjustable and easy to get accurate as far as a 90-degree angle or a 45-degree angle. Although I haven't used it at a 45-degree angle pretty much ever, but you can do that if you want. So they have 2 knobs in the back, and one changes the angle of the fence and the other changes the position of the fence on top of the jointer bed. To begin adjusting the cutting depth on this jointer, you're going to want to first unlock this knob down here by unscrewing this knob, and that releases the tension on this knob, and this knob allows you to raise the bed up and down. And so if you turn it to the left, you can see this knob is going to 0. So this is raising the bed up, and you can lower the bed all the way down to a depth of 1/8, and that's going to take 1/8 off your board. So we've covered all the moving parts of this 6-inch Rikon jointer. I showed you how long and how wide the bed was, how the fence operated, how it can be unlocked and the fence can move forwards and backwards. The fence can also be unlocked to tilt the fence to a 45-degree angle if you need to do so. It can also adjust in various increments from there, but that's not something that you'll probably encounter you needing. We've covered how to unlock this knob and actually set the cutting depth of this jointer, which is super easy, and it can go from a little over 0 all the way up to 1/8 as far as the cutting depth. It has a very nice blade guard over the helical cutter heads, and that's what I want to get into next. I want to show you exactly what they look like, and it's also very easy to change them. So first you're going to have to move the blade guard out of the way and prop a block to keep that from sliding back. Then you'll want to make sure that the power is off to your jointer before you do this process. And then you'll see that the helical blades are in various spots around the jointer. All we have to do is take the star bit, and I'm pretty sure this comes with it, and you just stick it in there and loosen it up like that. And that comes right out. And then what you can do is, if you can see, there's a little blade right here and a little blade right there. If one of these sides gets damaged, you can rotate it, or you can replace it altogether. And then to replace it, you simply put the helical cutter head back on there. You'll definitely want to make sure that the side that's sticking out this way is in fact a blade. And we can just double check real quick, and it is in fact one of the cutter heads. And you'll just replace this screw on there and then tighten it down real good. And that's as simple as it gets. Now, another thing that I'd like to mention is the fact that this jointer can actually easily be hooked up to a dust collection system. Some jointers have designs that don't allow a dust collection system to be hooked up as easily, so that's definitely a pro in the sense that this does have a nice dust collection chute, and If you have it hooked up to dust collection, this joiner doesn't create any dust in your shop. It hardly even has dust on the surface. So that's definitely a plus. Alright, so now that we've covered some of the main features and specs of this 6-inch Rikon joiner, I kind of want to discuss more about the pros and the cons of this specific joiner. So overall, since I've had this joiner for about 3 years and working with it at its full capacity, I can tell you that the workmanship, all the knobs, all the features, all the functions work exactly how they're supposed to. I've chipped a few joiner knives, but I've shown you how to replace those. It's very simple. All I've simply had to do is when I chipped a helical head Cutterhead on this joiner, I simply unscrewed it and rotated it. So that works fine. Overall, at the capacity that it can cut, it performs very well. However, that's where kind of the con comes in, is that 30-inch bed and the 6-inch width is very small for a jointer. The main benefit of this joiner is that by having enough room to easily edge joint boards on a solid work surface that's wide enough and long enough to run a large board through, and all the nice functions and everything working appropriately at the capacity that it works with is incredible, and I've loved this joiner ever since I got it. However, you do have to kind of make that mental note that if you're working with large projects with lumber wider than 6 inches, this does you really no good except when you're edge jointing. So this jointer will edge joint all your boards perfectly. However, you certainly don't need a 6-inch width just to edge joint boards. So that's kind of a suggestion for you, is that if you're only planning on edge joining boards with a joiner, there's really no need to go to 6 inches. You can easily get a cheaper 4-inch model and it'll do the same job. Now, I can't attest to the workmanship and the craftsmanship of the joiner itself. I'm just saying that at a 4-inch capacity, you're still gonna edge joint just fine. You're hardly ever gonna be needing to edge joint wider than 4 inches. Now, if you think you're gonna face joint wider than 4 inches, maybe going to a 6-inch is beneficial to you. And I can tell you that this joiner performs really well and all the functions have performed well. But I just wanted to make that note. To wrap up this review, I want to tell you a few tips in determining whether or not you need a jointer for your specific wood shop. Now, when determining this, one factor to weigh is whether or not you have a planer in your workshop yet. So if you have a planer purchase, a thickness planer in your wood shop, and you're looking at a joiner, I would say, yeah, that would probably be the next machine to get if you don't have one. However, if you don't have a thickness planer yet in your wood shop, as far as benchtop models, especially if you're looking at the benchtop joiner, I would highly recommend you buying a benchtop thickness planer before a jointer, because a thickness planer can serve multiple functions. If you use like a planer sled, you can face joint with a planer sled with a thickness planer, and thickness planers can be a little bit more useful and versatile working with wider boards. So whereas a joiner can only work with 6-inch wide boards, a planer, a benchtop planer, could work with like 12-inch wide boards. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you're just getting a joiner to edge joint boards, and that's all it's gonna function as, you're not planning on face joining a board and just edge joining it, and you have a table saw already, you can simply make a jointer jig for the table saw and totally bypass buying a jointer. So I'll leave a link in the video as well as a description for the jointer jig plans. If you're not on a super stringent budget and you don't want to bother making jigs, that's where I would say go ahead and purchase this, because this is a great budget friendly option. And I'll tell you what, it does serve all the functions well, and for the capacity it's at, it cuts boards perfectly. Well, I really hope that you thought this 6-inch Rikon joiner review was helpful in determining whether or not you want to purchase this specific model, a model of a similar design, or Maybe I convinced you that maybe you actually do need a jointer for your wood shop, or maybe I showed you some recommendations how you can bypass a jointer altogether. So if you appreciate those recommendations, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to the ShopFix channel. I'll see you in the next video.